Leading on to the broken deal.
Yes.
So I think when we were growing up, and this was back in like 90s, early 2000s when we went to university, the general thing was, I think this maybe started with John Major. Back in the 90s, it was a huge thing of like everyone needs to go to university. There was just a whole just big push, right? There was nothing talked about around, go be a plumber or an electrician. In fact, it was frowned upon. But the deal was then was you go to university, you get a better job, you have access to better jobs, you can make more money, you can then think about buying a house and getting a mortgage and then live happily ever after. I think the deal's broken now. And I want to just, before you answer, I got a message from one of the newspapers and it asked me to comment, and I'm just going to read you the stat. So the stat being, so the pay for the typical single working age graduate is 30% lower today than it was in 2007 when adjusted for increased living costs, cutting the pay premium of graduates versus minimum wage salaries in half. Linked to that, PwC's entry-level salary for grads is now basically the same as the minimum wage.
Oof.
Which is interesting. That doesn't take into account, maybe you could earn more money as a grad, maybe not. I think there's a lot of context to it. But what do you...
Firstly, it's brutal. I think we look at the university experience as a whole, and then I think we need to look at it as a cost as well, right? So the key here is education. University was a route to a great education. Or that was how it was sold.
Yeah.
Then everyone got it, and everyone was... The government at the time wanted everyone to have higher education. It is a very noble thing. A very, a country raising its human capital is incredibly valuable to the nation. There are different ways of doing it. The fringe benefits most people got from university weren't just the education. For many of us, it was our first slice of freedom, first time away from home. And I think that is sad to lose, but the costs have increased immeasurably. The average student leaving university now, I have a friend who used to work with us. He's still 40K or so in debt from a 3-year course, many years after leaving university. That's a millstone.
Yeah, America's even worse.
America's far worse.
Yeah.
But it's not as bad, but it's still really rough.
Yeah.
So those are 3 years where you could be earning, but you're actually sliding into debt. So it's not just that you're sliding into debt, it's the opportunity cost is that you would be above zero, but you're going below zero. So you've got the debt that you're sliding into and what you're not earning, the opportunity cost. That is so going to university now isn't the default choice that it was. You have to weigh it up more carefully. What does it mean for your prospects? Is there a technical education? Are you going into a course that will bona fide, that is like an accounting degree or something like that where it's really practically useful? Or if you're thinking of doing that, could you do the qualification whilst you're in industry?
Yeah.
It's a different choice now.
Yeah, because also, I mean, again, to your point, is you can do internships, apprenticeships. Even if you go to university, do internships.
Yeah.
You can do apprenticeships, you can get work experience and things like that. But you have to it's hard to do the sums because a lot of the time you've got like the older generation advising the younger generation. And a lot of them have no idea it's like, go to university. You have to, right? And maybe like, because the equation isn't necessarily just, to your point, and maybe also my point here is like, it's not just a starting salary. It might be also like there's value in the network you build, the connections you make. In some jobs, in a lot of jobs, whether we like it or not, I mean, it's very difficult to get into an investment bank or a private equity firm without a degree. Obviously, if you want to be a doctor, have to have a degree. Lawyer. There's certain jobs where, if someone's operating on my heart, they better have every single degree under the sun. You know what I mean? But there's others, and then this is my broader point, is that we need to be giving better advice to young people because you might not be suited to university, and actually you can earn really good money being a plumber. Or starting a business.
Absolutely. And the job security in being a plumber is you're one of the, those kind of trade and skills. You're one of the least likely professions to be replaced dramatically by AI.
And also, look, Zuckerberg dropped out of university. My point is this, is that actually your choice could be starting a business.
Yeah.
right? You might not be a billionaire.
Absolutely.
Obviously,
You will learn a lot by doing it.
Yeah.
And you've got, look, with the internet, you have access to the most amazing educational resources history has ever produced for free instantly. So if you've got the will to learn, you can do that anywhere. And that's not just, with YouTube and podcasts. There's so many resources and there's too much. We are swamped with data and information. And actually one of the values of humans now is helping act as a filter, which is why people have their preferred podcast hosts. People will listen to certain business podcasts or whatever because you view it as a reliable source of information. One of the challenges that we have now is retaining information. With AI, we've offloaded we it's cognitive load. So we've offloaded a lot of our cognition or parts of it to AI, which actually makes it harder for us to learn. The ways in which we learn as individuals and retain and remember the information for us to be able to act on it are very different to how we're receiving that fire hose of information with AI. It's not the first time in history there's been more information than we can consume. It's been that for hundreds and hundreds of years. But we can now receive information faster than we can think. Filtering becomes an even more challenging, even bigger challenge. But it's moved so fast in the last 20 years that if I were making decisions based on my parents' view today and what essentially I inherited from them, it doesn't, it was a job for life kind of environment, and that's not the case in the world today.
I've had a lot of people ask me, I was in Cape Town last week, went for a dinner, the guy was like, hey, he's got a son who's like 14, and they were like, what should I tell my son to do? Like, they're talking about, like subjects, like what degree should he do? What career should I tell him to, this kind of thing. It's quite interesting because, and you could see it in his eyes, like the dad's eyes, it was like, a big burden on him to advise his son. He was looking for advice because, when you're young, you need like people to
mentorship is
get
really...
advice from. He's like, well, what should I, no. I'm like, hey man, like if I'm honest, maybe his job isn't even invented yet.
As well.
Maybe it's actually following something that you enjoy and be happy. I think if I had my time again, I would do more of the subjects that I was actually really good at versus things that I maybe felt that I should have done.
I had a really good quote yesterday from a friend of mine, Marianne Shillingford. She's a creative director at AXA Nobel, make Dulux paint. She said, it was a very simple one, but I thought it was worth writing down. Give everything you're passionate about your best shot. Because actually you're most likely to open up opportunities by doing that. And you do need to be passionate to an extent about what you're doing, because otherwise the energy will fade. That doesn't mean you need to, be on Britain's Got Talent and want to be a singer. Although if that's for you, fine. But you want to be able to be at least sufficiently passionate about what you're doing that you can get out of bed in the morning for it. And even if that's not like necessarily the most interesting industry, you should at least be passionate about the people that you work with, because that will also keep you motivated because you want to perform for the team.
But even to get there, when you're young, you have to have someone to advise you. So let's say you want to be a doctor.
That's a good point.
Just like if you're from like, let's say a broken home, low socioeconomic background, something like that, you just haven't got the role models around. But actually, you're well suited to being a doctor. You've got to make the right GCSE choices in this country, right? So that's like 14, I think, years old. Then you've got to make the right A-level choices. Then...
So... Okay, here we are, right? So everyone needs help. Everyone needs support. Everyone needs an education. That takes many different forms. Mentorship is really important. Timothy Armu, Timo, he says, look, one of his quotes is, you just need to be someone worth mentoring. So you're going to try and find mentors and be a really good mentee. And those mentors don't even need to be in real life. Podcasts are that. You can learn in that way. You need to know how we learn. One of the reasons I even brought this book out is it's part life advice for anyone listening to the podcast, but it's also just personal practice. This is a Victorian invention. It's a commonplace book. It's not a to-do list. It's where quotes go. It's where lessons go. If I listen to a podcast, I write notes. I wrote 6 pages of notes on a podcast last week because we learn spatially. You don't read it once or hear it once and it sticks. You have to, like a golfer practicing a swing, you have to practice the thoughts that you want to encode in your biological mind in order for them to stick. So one piece of advice for anyone, if you haven't got one, is get a flipping notebook and write down really useful things. You can get instantly amazing information and pretty good advice on all manner of topics from ChatGPT Gemini, whatever, Perplexity, Claude. You could, but are you going to remember it? And that's the challenge. So if it's genuinely worth remembering, make the effort to remember it. And it has to be active. You have to write it down. You have to reread it over time. I have a couple of books like this. I used to do it years and years ago, and then I fell out of the habit. You never escape the need for the constant work. And this is my way of doing it. You're going to reinforce those lessons for yourself until they stick. But you won't get that with digital tools alone.
I've got to be honest. I'm digital tools. And that's probably a bad thing. I don't know. I mean, I could definitely benefit from the notebook and the pen.
It's not one or the other. It's one and the other.
Yeah, it's an and game. It's definitely an and game.
You remember more that you handwrite than you type.
True.
You remember more that you read in print than on screen. And you can underline on screen, but it's not quite the same thing, right? There are ways of doing both.
No, you're right.
But you have to practice the things that you want to remember.
No, you're 100%.
I'm supposed to be smart, but I'm not smart enough that you just tell me once and it sticks forever. I have to practice the same as absolutely everyone else. And that's just a tool for doing it. Bertrand Russell, the philosopher, wrote 3,000 words a day. That was his target. And it's similarly like writing anything. We now, it's almost a shame we call it journaling. Right, journaling is to fix your thinking and your thoughts, and it's a specific practice. But it used to be ubiquitous and just writing because it was the tools that we had available. When you write, you slow down. You have to form your thoughts around the speed at which you can handwrite.
True.
We sped up the speed at which we could write through typing.
And
which
now I do
changes the way you think. Right.
Yeah.
And for the first time in history, we can think faster than we can think. That's AI, right? It's not only that we can think faster than we can write, or we can write faster than we can, but there was a feedback mechanism between writing as a practice and how you think. We did that for several thousand years. I don't think we should be so keen to abandon it because writing makes us smarter.